Games about games and the process of making them have become quite popular as of late, particularly in the indie game space, much of which is made up of developers who used to work for much more monolithic game companies, before growing disgruntled with how things were run and branching out on their own. However, when you're making a commentary about something in game form, especially if you're trying to satirize it, it can be difficult to avoid simply becoming the thing that you're making fun of, which can really damage the effectiveness of the satire. In the case of the Magic Circle, the satire is aimed at endless development cycles, infighting within large development studios, and the effects of big players within a studio fighting for control of the end product. And surprisingly enough, this game does quite often manage to strike the perfect balance between being commentary about game making and being a game itself, with mechanics almost entirely detached from the satire. The way you go about solving the puzzles does tie into the narrative of endless development and incoherent, incomplete worlds, but it doesn't fall into the difficult to avoid trap of just being a bad game itself. Instead, you are exploring the badly built game, a game within a game, if you will, exploiting its weaknesses and slowly managing to fix some of its flaws. You do that by hacking into the world around you through a few main mechanics. Your most important resource is quite literally life. You have the ability to give life to things that lack it throughout the world, and you extract additional life from cracks in the environments. Then you modify the creatures of the world to do your bidding with a ton of different adjectives. You can modify how any NPC moves, fights, who their allies and enemies are, even special properties like whether or not they're invulnerable to fire, and you can solve all of the game's puzzles this way. That freedom that the Magic Circle gives you in modifying its NPCs allows you to solve its puzzles in tons of different ways. I'm sure there's a sort of optimal solution the developers had in mind when they were making the game, but the ability to edit the base properties of anything not bolted to the ground basically opens up Pandora's box. And amazingly enough, I never managed to back myself into a corner or create a scenario where I was unable to progress, despite the incredible amount of freedom, something that can be very difficult to pull off. But while those mechanics work really well and blend with the story in a way that is impressive while being not intrusive, the narrative often falls under its own weight, with a very noticeable lack of any likable characters. There's no one in this game that really serves as someone for the player to relate to. Everyone is just a total dick. All for interesting reasons, to be sure, but the whole thing feels like it's come from an extremely pessimistic view of the game development process. There is no light at the end of the tunnel, and you're really not managing to change anything at all. You are simply an explorer. Still, despite the problems with that half of the game, the gameplay and story combine to make Magic Circle something that more people should really check out. If you enjoy very meta stories and don't mind the lack of a sympathetic character, or if you just really like the idea of a really open puzzle game, the Magic Circle has something for you. In case you missed it, I look at games that were either ignored when they came out or have been forgotten since. Games that people have missed. If you like that idea, be sure to subscribe so you can see latest videos. If you like this video in particular, be sure to hit that like button, and thanks for watching.